Welcome to episode 2 of the Pop Culture Juke Joint. This week, once again, we are joined by Jack Lugo, pop culture extraordinaire. We'll be discussing the Walking Dead finale. We'll also be chatting a little bit about the schmaltzy NBC Cry Fest, This Is Us. And we just may take another look at that WESTWORLD finale. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, grab your flask, step on into the juke joint.
Hey, Anthony.
Jack Lugo, how are you?
I'm okay. Uh, well, it looks like the Walking Dead had its mid-season finale. Remember the days when there was no such thing as a mid-season finale?
Jack, I completely do remember that. And I was watching the coming attractions for the next season or the continuation of the current season. And I said to myself, man, this sucks, man. Like we have to wait, what, 3 months now? And, I know we're getting an extra, what, I think 3 episodes. I think they do 8 and 8, and that gives us
Uh,
16 episodes. But, like, my God. I mean, I was going to bring this up later, but I'm glad that you brought it up first. Um, this is something that I don't like. And especially AMC does this a lot. They split their seasons in half. They did it with Breaking Bad towards the end of that run, and I think it takes us as viewers out of the game. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of networks have been doing that. Yeah, I don't know when they started doing that, but I guess it's a way for them to get ratings like twice. I guess they have two finales now, so for every season. So it's a way to kind of build towards something and then have the audience sort of get excited and hype it up, so that and before it was really the finale would get most of the hype, but now it's their two finales, so they get to have their cake and eat it too, I guess.
yeah, I'm kind of down on that, and I really hope AMC stops doing that. But uh, to get into the chat about the actual episode itself, the
Yeah.
finale of The Walking Dead, I don't know how much of it you did watch, but wow, it really, really, for me, I think more happened in this one episode than I think the entire goddamn season. And it reminded me why we liked The Walking Dead to begin with. So there was a lot of action, and boy, let me tell you, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned last week. I don't follow The Walking Dead, but I know a lot of people do. A lot of my friends do.
Mm.
Yeah, Jeffrey D. Morgan reminds me a lot of Bobby Cannavale, who played Chip Rossetti in Boardwalk Empire. I mean, he has that same kind of charisma, personality.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this Negan character. Now, I don't know if you watched The Walking Dead when the governor was on.
No.
The governor was, I think, the second or third season. But the governor seemed like the Pope compared to Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Negan. My God, this guy is just a psychopath. And I think for fans, I think we're really happy now that Rick has gotten his mojo back, along with his Colt gun, of course. I think he's ready to kick some serious ass next season, or the continuation of the next season. And I think that's what we've been waiting for. It's been a painful season, let me tell you. It has been,
Yeah,
oh my God, it has.
that's what I've heard. I mean, I like I said, I don't follow it, but I remember last week you said that it's become a bore to watch the show. Like, and I could sympathize with that experience because sometimes you get into a show and then somewhere along the way it becomes a chore to watch, but you feel kind of obligated to watch it.
Well, of course. And, this is something that The Walking Dead has done, I think, for the past couple seasons, where it's meandering on this agonizing pace where they'll focus on one character one week, another two characters the next week, and it'll be like 3 weeks before we see, Rick and the gang again. And I think what they did tonight worked beautifully, where they went back and forth to all of the characters, and I think they should go back to that. I mean, we don't want to wait 3 weeks to see Morgan or Carol. We want to see them, every week, or maybe even every other week. But my God, I really hope they work on the pacing. And I think I'm really excited for this next season. So I think it returns in February. Hopefully it'll get its mojo back. I think it lost its mojo a little bit, and of course with Westworld kind of sneaking in at the last second and stealing some of its thunder on
Yeah, that's been the
Sunday
prevailing
nights.
theory.
Yeah.
That's been the prevailing theory that Westworld has been taking the ratings away from Walking Dead. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
Well, it's new, it's fresh. We've got a bunch of other new characters to kind of, delve into. So I think that could be kind of understandable. And in the world of DVRs, then, why not?
Yeah.
So I know you don't watch The Walking Dead, and I wish you did. We'd be able to dive into it a little bit more. But you brought up something interesting this week. We were talking about George A. Romero, right?
Yes. Um, yeah, well, the reason I don't watch The Walking Dead is not because I have anything against it. I actually probably would have loved it. It's just when the show premiered, it was like 2010. My son was like a year old. I was working two jobs. It was kind of hard to watch non-family
Of
programming.
course.
So by the time I felt like I could, like watch it, it's like I was so many episodes behind. I just kind of like let it fall by the wayside. And my wife doesn't watch horror either, so it's like, I mean, nowadays we can put our son to bed and watch stuff together, but then, I'd have to wait for her to kind of watch something on my own. So it's kind of it becomes a little bit of a struggle to kind of watch this genre, even though I love horror. I mean, I grew up watching zombies and
I
I love
I
Romero.
I completely agree, and my wife doesn't watch this at all either. She actually thinks it's quite stupid. And I say to her, I go, zombies are petrifying. She goes, what? What are you talking about? I said, well, yeah, they just keep coming and coming and coming. There's just so many of them, and they're relentless. And I think that goes back into the George A. Romero principle of the zombies. When you're watching a zombie movie, are they the Romero zombies? And I think the Romero zombies are petrifying. They move slow. You know what I mean? They're not like the zombies in that World War Z, where my God,
Yeah.
they, they
He, they're like, well, he compared them to army ants. It's like, uh, I think, yeah, we've kind of, yeah. I mean, he made comments as to the effect that The Walking Dead and World War Z have sort of ruined the zombie genre. And although I don't follow Walking Dead, I did see World War Z. And yeah, it just felt like very kind of overblown, and yeah, I kind of miss the classic Romero zombies, even though they're slow. It's easy to outrun them. It's easy to kill them individually. But once they're all, grouped together, I mean, they are a serious threat.
I will say this. I do think that The Walking Dead pays a serious, serious tribute to the Romero zombie every week. I mean, I think I think they go hand in hand for me. Uh, the Walking Dead zombies are slow. They move slow. There's a ton of them, and let's be frank. The last few Romero movies, they
Not the
kind of, well, yeah, right, not the best, but they do kind of replicate these kinds of zombies. They don't have super strength. They just want to eat your brains, and that's what the deal is on The Walking Dead. Um, but I also will say this, and I don't know if there's a lot of horror uh, fans out there that may call me out on this, but I think there might be some sour grapes along with George A. Romero calling The Walking Dead a soap opera and that kind of thing. Um, I don't know if it was sour grapes, but I would love to have had Romero involved with this in some way, shape, or form. I know that might be a little bit impossible
Yeah,
because
I
Robert
mean,
Kirkman. Yeah, but go ahead.
he's still struggling to make, like, even his last film was kind of like a struggle to get the budget together to make it, and I think he has another zombie film that he kind of wants to make, but yeah, it's I think his big thing is also criticizing the CGI and all the big budget money that goes into these kinds of productions, especially. I mean, he made that a point about World War Z, but I think a little bit about Walking Dead as well. That it doesn't have, even though it's, the ones that I really love are the Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead.
Of
Those
course.
first two,
Hmm.
you can't beat them. But they're yeah, the production values, obviously, for that time, even for that time, were you had to really still suspend disbelief while you're
Sure.
watching it.
Sure.
Um, and I think he kind of feels like, now with all this CGI and big production, it sort of comes in, and it sort of, even though it might look more authentic, you could still, I guess it still might take you out of the movie, knowing that you're seeing this genre of film, and it's rooted very much in the B movie tradition.
Hmm. I agree. I think in somewhere in the 90s they remade Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
They updated it in color, and it's certainly a fine zombie movie. It was almost like a beat for beat remake. But I have to tell you, that original Night of the Living Dead, there's something creepy about the simplicity of everything that was going on there. And of course, the black and white, it just gives it a creature feature kind of creepy vibe. And I do think we have a huge debt to pay to George A. Romero, and I hope he continues to make his zombie movies. I hope the zombie genre is not dead.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, I don't know where else there is to go. I mean, it seems like we've kind of seen every incarnation of zombie lore that there could be, but who knows? Hopefully, if
Well,
anyone will give it to us, it'll be
I think
Romero, right?
I think the one that he's trying to make is actually a prequel to Night of the Living Dead, and it takes place during the Cold War. And there's not many plot details about it,
Hmm.
but I think he I guess he wants to get into I guess the origin. I think it's actually the project. It's called Origins. So I guess it's sort of how the zombie apocalypse happened. And obviously in the first film they never even mentioned the word zombie.
And that is
Uh,
very cool. I mean, please tell me he wants to do it in black and white.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I don't think that they mentioned whether or not it's going to be in black and white, but that would be a really nice touch.
Well, here's the thing. This guy was a guerrilla filmmaker. I mean, with everything they have now, he could shoot this thing on an iPhone, put it on his Mac, and then what's he need financing for? I don't get it. George, get it together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the first one was made for about a little bit over $100,000.
Yeah. I mean, there's no film anymore, George. Um, but you know what I do want to talk about, Jack?
Yes.
I do want to talk about the crying show that you and the rest of the nation seems to be swept away with. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm talking about
This is
NBC's
us.
This Is Us.
Yes.
I kid around. Um, I remember seeing the trailer preview for it about, oh, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago. And I remember saying, "Wow, this looks really interesting. A network show that doesn't have to do with, anything like, killers or cops or, whatever. This is just a straight run-of-the-mill drama, correct?"
Yes, that's what it is. Although it might be a fair thing to say to call it a melodrama.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it is a straight up drama, and it does appeal to the emotions. I mean, my wife and I watch it every week, and it's it's a classic drama. But I think even though it has its melodramatic elements, I don't think it's a cheap melodrama. I think it actually earns a lot of the like emotional
Hmm.
turning points that it some of the revelations, some of the twists. I think it feels actually earned. The only, I guess, criticism that some people are saying is that they kind of they're going for the tears with every episode,
Hmm.
and it doesn't need to be that. But I think over the course of the season that well, just like Walking Dead, it had its mid-season finale.
Hmm.
This past week, but over the course of this half a season, it's been kind of like even-handed. Although each episode does have some heavy emotions, I think everyone could sort of connect to at least one of the characters, and I think that's the whole point of a show like this, is that it may not be for everyone, but I think even if it's not your type of show, if you sat down and watched it, you probably could at least find something to relate to.
Do you think that this show is doing so well because there isn't anything else really like it on TV now. What do you think?
Yeah, that's part of it too. It's very positive. There's not the kind of typical cynicism that you get in a lot of these dramas that kind of come and go. It's the first kind of show that I could think of. I mean, obviously there are a few others, but I it does sort of it stays optimistic, and it even though it does go for the small c kind of
Hmm.
reveal twist ending sometimes. I think it feels authentic while you're watching, even though you're being manipulated, even if that makes any sense.
Do you think it's a callback to a different time, when maybe you and I grew up? I mean, I grew up in the 80s where, these kinds of shows were a dime a dozen. Not a dime a dozen, but it was the norm, decent family programming. Somewhere along the way, post 9/11, the world we're living in now is a lot different. And,
Oh yeah.
this a show like this just kind of makes us feel better. We watch it with our family. Is that like is that, am I on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, and then my wife and I are around the same age as the present day
Hmm.
iterations of the characters and stuff. So I mean, yeah, growing up we had shows like The Wonder Years,
Hmm.
which kind of like took like it was a narrator in present day, which would have been the 80s,
Hmm.
talking about his childhood in the 60s. This is sort of a narrow, this kind of shows you the present day characters going along with their struggles, and then sort of relating back to their childhood, which most of it is in the 80s.
And from what I understand, the show has a great cast. I mean,
Oh yeah, Milo Ventimiglia, Justin Hartley, they're both phenomenal, and Sterling K. Brown. I mean, he's phenomenal in this. I mean, he played Christopher Darden in
hmm
the OJ miniseries, and he's just incredible in this.
so come awards time, who's getting the nod? Is it Sterling Brown?
I think so. I think his character has the most to work with.
Hmm.
Although the other characters, Milo Ventimiglia especially, I think he might also get a nod. But I think it would probably come down to him.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think a show like this would do better on a network like HBO or Showtime or even AMC, where they can kind of let down their hair a little bit and not be so constrained to, network censors and advertisers and that kind of thing?
No, because I think this kind of show is it's because of it's rooted in kind of optimistic message.
Hmm.
It lends itself to network TV more so than cable, other outlets. That's just my opinion, though.
Right. That's a good point. Were you a fan of Parenthood? Did you watch Parenthood at all?
No, but my wife is gonna watch it because she did the whole Gilmore Girls
Ah.
binge, and now she's on a Lauren Graham kick. So I might end up seeing it. Uh,
That's a lot of seasons, Jack.
yeah, I know. It's Lauren Graham is a phenomenal actress,
Yeah.
so
Uh,
I don't mind seeing her.
and this is, need I tell you, 23 episode, programs, Let me ask you a question about network TV, and I know that you are a lot quicker to kind of give a show on network TV a chance, like The Blacklist, and I know you were into
Yeah,
Hannibal a lot.
yeah.
I kind of sometimes roll my eyes when I see a show, debuting on one of the major networks, because I know right off the bat, they're not going to be able to do probably what we've all become used to with great cable dramas. But it seems like you're willing to kind of give the show a shot. I mean,
Oh yeah,
to,
definitely. Yeah, Hannibal, I think, is the best example. Well, it got canceled, but those 3 seasons that it was on, it really pushed the envelope. I mean, I was shocked as as to what they were able to put on, it really did feel like I was watching it on HBO.
Hmm.
I mean, the only difference is obviously they can't show nudity, and the language has to be curbed and stuff. But the actual the way they actually portrayed the violence wasn't really. They did it in a very strategic way. It wasn't rooted in exploitation, even though that's the first thing you would think of with a show like that.
Hmm.
It was very artfully done, and the production values were incredible for that kind of show. I mean, and the scripts and the performances were top notch. So I mean, a show like Hannibal, even though it got canceled, I do have to give the network credit for
Hmm.
keeping it on for 3 years, because each season, I mean, they were threatening to cancel it, and then every time it was renewed, I was rejoicing.
Well, wasn't it trying to land somewhere else? Was there a petition going around?
Yeah, they were trying to get it on Netflix and a few other outlets, but Brian Fuller, who was the showrunner, he got Star Trek, which he's no longer doing. But at the
Hmm.
time when Hannibal was canceled, that was the big news that he was doing Star Trek, and he's also doing American Gods, which is the adaptation of the novel.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of other things on his plate, so I don't know if it's going to wind up somewhere. Although now that he's not doing Star Trek, it's possible.
Yeah, you never know. Well, we'll check in at the end of the season, and hopefully you'll have something good to report about This Is Us.
Yes.
Um, let's talk really quick about Westworld again.
Okay.
Um, you know, God, there's so much to talk about when it comes to the lore of what's going on behind the scenes. And I don't mean behind the scenes creatively in the writer's room. I'm talking about that incredible Facebook group that we're a part of, where people just kind of give their well thought out opinions and theories. Like it could go on and on. I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean, at some point you kind of have to remove yourself because you can get way, way, way far down the rabbit hole. That
oh,
I mean,
talk completely. I mean, you've got people, analyzing what one character wore versus what another character wore, and I'm like, man, I don't think the costume department is really thinking about this. Maybe they are, maybe they're not,
maybe
but
they are. Yeah.
but who knows? I mean, like that kind of level of analysis. A week later, how do you feel about that finale? You and I were a little caught up with, how like the ingenuity, the originality of everything. But like a week later, do you still feel the same way?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think yeah. I mean, we focused on a lot of things because there's a lot to talk about. But the one of the main things we kind of brushed over was this whole theory of consciousness that the show finally kind of put forward. I mean, it been teasing it
Hmm.
throughout the season, but basically, I mean, the show is putting forth this notion that consciousness comes from within. That it's a journey inward instead of a journey upward, which would have
Hmm.
been the pyramid, and that's why it's represented by the maze. And Dolores sort of achieves. She finally we finally see her achieving that, and it's sort of a moment of self-actualization for her.
Hmm.
And I mean, and that was incredible because even though there have been other shows that have dealt with AI and sort of flirted with some of the same thematic material, I don't know that it's ever really been put in quite that way,
Hmm.
in a way that really challenges the audience to kind of think about it in those terms. So I have to, I still have to give the show a lot of credit, and I'm a huge fan, and I'm looking forward to what they do in season two. But yeah, I mean, it's something that you kind of, I feel like I have to rewatch it. I mean, I might have to actually sit down and rewatch the whole first season again just to grasp everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think I have to watch the entire season again. But when I do, I think I'm going to give it a little bit of time and space. Maybe over the summer, when things are probably a little lighter,
Yeah.
and I can binge them. And then we can, you always see things differently, while you're binging. Um, eh, were you able to watch the scene after the credits?
Yes. That's Armistice. She's, she
Mm-hmm.
takes off her arm because her arm is caught in the door,
Mm-hmm.
in the glass door, and she takes off her arm, and you can tell she's about to confront the dumb security people who can't shoot for shit. I mean, I mean they're standing like right in front of her and they still can't shoot her.
Dude, they were like stormtroopers. I'm telling you that right now.
But yeah, I mean I mean I wasn't expecting an end credit scene because obviously it's not something that they had done, throughout the regular episodes. But that was a nice touch. I mean, the other thing I wanted to bring up too is
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Nolan had done an interview recently, and a lot of people, including myself, thought that Maeve's decision to to leave the train and go back into the park, or at least go back into Westworld and not leave and go into the outside world. A lot of people thought that that was her being controlled, by whoever's controlling her,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was Ford or someone else. And it turns out what he was saying is that that was actually a Maeve exercising her own free will, and that
Mm.
the way you can tell is that when the hosts are being controlled, they're using Steadicam, and when they're acting of their own free will, they're using handheld, which is not something an average audience member is going to pick up on.
Well, now when I binge watch, that's what I'm going to be watching for. Jesus. All right, so how about this? How about we rewatch this sometime, maybe around the summertime? We'll
Oh yeah.
re-explore our theories and our thoughts again, and we'll take it from there.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
also, just briefly, I also wanted
yeah.
to mention Disney did a 2015 film called Tomorrowland with George Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of tried to tackle some of the same subject matter concerning artificial intelligence and robots, androids, and so forth. And that one, I mean, it basically George Clooney's character meets like an android girl as a boy, and then he gets disillusioned once he figures out that she's an android and she's just trying to use him. And you can see some similarities to what William went through with Dolores and that. Although obviously that film, I don't think that many people saw. It didn't get that many accolades, and obviously it didn't tackle the subject material as well as Westworld.
Being a huge Disney buff, it was always a movie that I really wanted to watch, and I never did, and I think I will at some point. I'm a Clooney fan, who isn't? So that's definitely on my list. Um, so Jack, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Did you watch anything this week that you want to suggest to any of the listeners?
Yeah, I watched. I just started watching Black Mirror. I know I'm kind of late for the party on that, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I'm gonna continue watching. Although it's gonna be a slow burn for me.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna have time to watch it as fast as I would like to. But it's definitely something that's on my radar.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the slow burn. I
Yeah.
do the slow burn all the time. I call it savoring. Um, My suggestion of the week, Jack, and I might have talked to a couple people on Facebook about it. I don't know if you were one of them, but I watched the documentary Glory Days on Netflix. It was about Michael Alec. He was one of the notorious club kids in the late '80s, early '90s, who ended up killing another club kid.
Huh.
Chopped up his body, put it in a box, dumped it into I guess, the Hudson River, and the body wound up on Staten Island. And the documentary was just really a beautiful portrait of New York City in that era. I mean, it was still gritty, it was still dirty. Giuliani had barely even become mayor, and it's a great snapshot at the time, and all the nightclubs. I mean, there's not no nightclubs anymore, really. And it was about the Limelight. I don't know if you ever went to the Limelight. I went to the Limelight,
No.
Jack, one night. My buddies used to go all the time. It really wasn't my scene, but I went with him anyway. And once was enough, Jack. Let me just say that. Once was enough. So yeah, it's on Netflix for anyone who wants to stream it. It's streaming now. It's called Glory Days, Daze, not Days.
Okay, yeah, because that brings up the Ben Affleck film, I think.
Yeah,
The
complete
documentary sounds fascinating.
completely different, dude. Anything else you want to chat about before we sign off?
Well, I know on YouTube, you found these Michael Jackson clips of behind the
Oh
scenes of
man,
uh,
God, yeah,
World.
Jack. Let me tell you, Jack. I don't know how I wound up on this rabbit hole of We Are the World, but apparently, now I remember watching a documentary of the making of We Are the World when it debuted in what, like 1985 or whatever it was, and it was like an hour or whatever, and it showed, everyone singing, and it was great, and I remember that. But wow, I found footage on YouTube of Michael Jackson singing his chorus, in which everyone sang over, like the next day,
Yeah,
and it was just a great little snippet of him and Quincy Jones. At one point, Steve Perry of Journey walks into the production booth and asks Quincy Jones if he's dreaming because he sees Michael Jackson. So it was really, really, really good stuff. And then I think you shared the Dylan
oh
version.
yeah, yeah. I'm a huge Dylan fan, so I was just kind of like, yeah, he was singing that one line that he has over and over again, and I know most people would think I'm crazy, but I just love everything Dylan. So just hearing him rehearse that line was just incredible for me.
Well, no, I agree because they have takes of everybody doing their lines, like Springsteen and Huey Lewis and Cyndi Lauper and Daryl Hall.
Yeah, Kim Carnes too. Yeah,
Yeah,
that when they were doing the bridge, which Cyndi Lauper refers to them, so, yeah, as the bridge people. That was the most fascinating one, aside from the Michael Jackson one.
let me tell you, Cyndi Lauper, man, holy shit, that voice of hers is just incredible.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't believe. She's did a country album recently.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it was her, but I mean, she does have an incredible
Yeah,
voice.
yeah. My buddy gave me one of her blues albums, and man, it's honky tonk. It's awesome, and I hope she continues to do it because you're right. That bridge was about 8 or 9 minutes or whatever between her, Huey Lewis, and Kim Carnes, and she was the highlight of it. I got to be honest.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, each time her line came up, I was like, what is she gonna do? You know, uh,
Exactly.
yeah, even knowing how it came out because obviously we've heard the song. So yeah, that was fascinating.
All right. Well, Jack, I've enjoyed this chat once again. Hopefully, we'll have another great rabbit hole to talk about
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh,
in the
but
next
before we go,
episode.
before we go, I just also want to recommend the Rolling Stones came out with a new album. It's a blues covers album, and
Yes,
they
yes.
came out with a video featuring Kristen Stewart called "Write 'Em On Down." Incredible video, great song. She's not my favorite actress in the world by any means, but I mean she's very sexy in this video.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
It's worth
Well,
checking out. Yes.
very cool. All right, so where can people
Um,
find you, Jack?
yes, it's at Jack Lugo 1.
At Jack Lugo one. I am at Anthony Venutolo. That's Anthony Venutolo. We're both on Facebook and check all the social networks. That's where you can find me. Jack, once again, I've enjoyed this conversation immensely.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so hopefully I'll check you out on the flip side.
Okay, great.
All
Thanks,
right,
Anthony.
talk to you later.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.